Looking to improve your squad on Ultimate Team? Visit IGGM.com for safe and reliable coins with the link in the description. Use my promo code NA to get 5% off. What's up, guys? For this video, we're going to be talking about a formation and a custom tactic that I have not done a video for in a pretty long time now, and that's going to be the 4-4-1-1. Now, formations like these, like the 4-4-1-1, the 4-4-2, all those types of formations, I try to almost avoid, basically because one of the main issues why they might not be a formation where you can say they're the best in the game can be mostly because they don't have CDMs, and obviously if you guys know, CDM defensive AI is just practically broken. Like, you basically have 6 defenders on the pitch when you have 2 CDMs. However, as you can imagine, having 2 center mids to begin with, or 3 center mids depending on the formation, obviously, you still get a lot of really good attacking output, a lot of really good passing options in midfield. Build-up is really fun. So basically, if you don't want to hug the meta as hard as you can, I highly suggest using formations like these, which is what brings us to the 4-4-1-1. And the 4-4-1-1 is a custom tactic, just like the previous video, that was brought to me on our Discord server, which you can see right here and with the link in the description. I gave it a shot. It's a formation, like I said, I haven't played in a real long time, but I gave it a shot, and I had a lot of fun with this. As you can see with the attached clips, the build-up is really fast, really progressive. You get a ton of passing options in the attack, and you get a lot of fluid options as well, which means there's a lot of positional rotations, players are moving around a lot, really good attacking AI, and sometimes it just feels like the goals are being scored for you. The most important thing to keep in note, however, is that defensively, this is not one of those type of formations where you can just sit there and just let the AI do the work for you. You're going to have to actively defend yourself, and that's mostly because center midfielder AI in terms of defense is different than CDM AI. They're less aggressive to tracking their runs. They kind of need a little bit of help, basically. Now, if you're able to defend without being a rat, then this is no issue for you. But if you're someone that I'm not trying to be too rude, but if you're someone that really needs the meta CDM setup to defend, you might be exposed a little bit. I guess you could say that you basically just have to be a decent player to use this custom tactic. I'm not even saying you have to be a good player, you just have to be decent enough to not rely on AI to do the work for you. But I'm sure that's the majority of you guys. I think it's only a small amount of people that are really dependent on defensive AI. But yeah, let's look at the squad we're going to use first before we talk about the custom tactics. And like any other video, your center backs and defenders, just make sure they're good players. I'm sure you guys know what good defenders look like. Just the important thing to know is your 3 players in the middle right here. I'm going to count the midfielder, or the cam, as the midfielder here. You're going to want your 2 center mids. As you can see, they're both assigned to box. So first things first, it's really important that you can have box to box double plus on both of these players. But not only just that, it's really important that you have players here that not only have all of the passing playstyles on white, except for obviously whip pass. That's useless. We're not looking for whip pass. We're just looking for the rest of these to at least be on white. But we also want these players to be really good in terms of forward efficiency. So what I mean by this, you can see JJ Okocha right here. And this card is practically not a center mid. This is basically a cam. Basically, you have plus 90s in shooting and passing and dribbling. You have passing play styles that make this player almost feel like a winger when you have the ball. You just happen to have jockey and intercepts. So this is just quite literally a broken card. You don't know what this player can basically play anywhere. It's weird. Same with Ron Neves right here. He's got high 90s in most of his stats, except for shooting, obviously, which obviously isn't a big deal. 87 shooting is more than fine. Really good dribbler. And the reason why we're stressing about this is the fact that your center midfielders are going to get a lot of opportunities in the box. So you're going to be able to want to trust them. You don't want to use something like I don't know, like a card that just has like 80 shooting at best and they're just super clunky, because if you don't trust that midfielder in the box, you're going to just have issues with them because they're going to get a lot of goal scoring opportunities. But that's that. Your wingers, self-explanatory, just get good wingers, high pace. Your your shadow striker, try to get someone that acts as a striker. For example, I have Lauren James on the bench as well. This card is really good as well. But you just want someone that has good pace. The way to say this is you want a player here that you could trust to play as a striker, if that makes sense. This card, for example, I could play him up front if I wanted to. But if it's a card like a cam that doesn't have good stats to act as a striker, I would not recommend them. But that's that. And that brings us to the custom tactic right here. The code will be in bigger text in the top right. And as you can see, we're changing things up for this one. We're using build up style counter. And I'll go over why we have this on counter once we talk about the player roles. But we're using build up style counter with defense approach on high. And as we talk about that, first things to note is the main differences that you'll see here that you won't see in other custom tactics. And first things first, both your inside forwards are going to be on attack while having your shadow strikers on attack to begin with. So obviously when we do this, you're basically kind of looking at a 4-2-1-3, and that's kind of what this formation will remind you of as you play. But the important thing to know is when you have your inside forwards on attack, they're going to be less about being a midfielder and more about being a goal threat. So what I mean by this is if you're looking at your wingers as opportunities to use them in build-up, to help the center midfielders, to basically retain the ball and pass around in deeper midfielder positions, that's not what they're going to be doing in this custom tactic. The entire point of this custom tactic is to progress the ball as quickly as possible to the front. You want to be doing your quick passing, your tiki-taka in the other team's half and the other team's box. So if you're someone that tries to pass a lot around in the back, you're not going to do well with this formation. The entire point is to put the ball in the other team's box, and then once you get there, you'll have a ton of options. And with the inside forwards being on attack, what this will do is it'll focus them more on making runs in behind in the earlier phases of build-up. And then once you get past those phases of build-up, they're just going to be inside the box. They're going to be occupying space. They're going to be fighting with your shadow striker to find open space. So you'll notice that many times once you get to the edge of the box to make that final pass, you're just going to have so many options, because every single inch of opportunity of space in that box, there's going to be either the striker, your cam, or your two wingers to try and occupy it as soon as possible. If you're worried about build-up, it's important to note, like I said, you want to be as quick as possible. You want to force the ball quickly up the pitch. So like I said, if you're someone that tries to play the ball slow, you're going to struggle, because the slower you play, the easier it is for the other team to get the ball and counter off of you. And the important thing to know when you're using the counter style for build-up is the fact that what EA does to basically almost penalize players that use counter is it deliberately opens up your defense a little bit when you lose the ball. It's kind of silly. Like, once you play enough of it, you kind of realize it kind of looks stupid, because it's almost like EA are basically nerfing counter, because if it wasn't for this, counter would be really OP, but they kind of like secretly make it so your defense basically goes and acts stupid when you lose the ball. Now obviously if you lose the ball in the other team's half, it doesn't matter because they'll recover just in time, but if you lose the ball when they have the ball at their feet, or when your center backs or center mids have the ball at their feet and it's like the ball's in midfield, you'll notice that the other team's striker is just going to make a run behind, and there's nothing you can do about it. Now obviously if you don't want to deal with this, just play with a balanced build-up. Balanced build-up isn't going to ruin this formation by all means. I played with balanced, and it felt almost the same for the most part. It was just more about being more calm, less runs were being made, and you were keeping the ball more often. But that's not the point of this custom tactic. If I did that, then it kind of gets boring, to be quite honest. Like I said, you can still do it, but I wouldn't say it's the same concept as what we're doing right now. But yeah, that's that. That's the wingers. Same concept applies with your shadow striker attack. This player is going to be taking up opportunities to act as the second striker. So when I use the term shadow striker, obviously that's the name of the role, but it's also the fact that it basically acts as a second striker. So shadow striker is practically a second striker in most contexts. So in build up, they're basically going to hold the same positions as a playmaker or in defense. But once you get the ball, and once they have a chance to do so, boom, they're gonna be making that running behind. And that brings us to our box-to-box center midfield. And this, combined with the counter build-up style, what this does is, since they're both the same role, they're gonna work in tandem. So what I mean by this is, it's gonna be like a chain. So one's gonna step up, the other one's gonna step back. And the reason why it's like that is because you already have 4 options in the box. You only have room for one more, realistically speaking, because the thing with AI in this game, as you can see, it's kind of indicated with the zone maps. They can only really go into positions where there's room for them to do so. So you're never going to be able to make a custom tactic where you can put, like, I don't know, 5 players in one area. It just won't work, because the AI will overlap, and then the AI they won't stack into one position. So since you already have 4 players that are designated with, as you can see with the most bright green spots in their zone map, you can see that all 4 of these players are prioritized with getting into the box. But then when we switch to this, they have that dark green, but they're still going to go into that box as much as possible. We're able to make the box-to-box a really good role in this custom tactic, primarily because they get as close as they can to the box with the chance of going into the box to begin with in some contexts, but they can never overcommit and then open up too much space in midfield, because like I said, there's not space for them in the attack at all times. They're only going to go when there's an opportunity to do so, and they're not going to find many opportunities because we have already plenty of options. So they get as close as they realistically can, but to prevent them from overcommitting and leaving too many gaps in midfield, for the most part, they're not going to be bombing into the box. However, they will be in plenty of contexts. For example, what you'll see most of the time is that one player will go into the box and the other one will like literally have no room, because as far as I can tell, I don't think you'll be able to make a custom tactic where you have more than 5 players in the box at a time. Like, you can't imagine having 6 players in the other team's box outside of a corner, you know what I mean? So with that, we're able to create a really good balance, because in normal conditions, you would want to have one on holding. And that does make sense, especially if you're going to be playing against someone who's hardcore using a cam and doing that stuff where they pass to the cam, then instantly send a through pass to the striker. In contexts like these, I do understand switching to holding, but for the most part, I noticed that when you have one on box to box, they're just gonna by default stay back, and the other one's gonna go into the box. But in other conditions where maybe you have your wingers on inside forward balance, they're not going to do that, primarily because with inside forward balance, as you can see when they drop back a little bit on the map, they're not holding as aggressive of a priority in getting into the box. So your center mids are going to be going into the box way more often. Sometimes they're going to be 50-50 in terms of going to the box with your wingers, and you don't want that to be the case, because you want your wingers to go into the box way more than your actual center midfielders, if that makes sense. So that's why having your inside forwards on attack is really important. Now, that was a lot of talking without stopping. I had to catch my breath for a second, but other than that, your defense is going to be on fullback defend, defender defend. No reason to deviate from this. And a goalkeeper, this is obviously personal preference. This is what you want to do, but goalkeeper defend is fine by me. Now, what's really fun about these custom tactics is the fact that you can just score so many goals in one game. So if you're someone that likes to play and score a ton of goals in attack, and you're not really a person that needs entertainment outside of scoring goals, you'll find playing a formation like this or a custom tactic like this is just gonna be so much fun. That's personally how I am myself. If I'm playing games and I'm not scoring goals, the game's not gonna be fun. And I've had crazy score lines. I played last week in league. I got ranked 2 with these custom tactics, and most of those games I was scoring like crazy margins. I'm talking like 6 goals, 7 goals, 8 goals, all that stuff. And I wasn't really worried about defense either. I was still conceding little goals. I was defending pretty well. It's not like my center mids were always out of space. It is really important that you do get your midfielders on roll masteries with the box to box plus or box to box plus plus. If you're someone that uses Gillett, this might be the opportunity to let him go. I know that's hard to say because he's probably the best center mid in the game at the moment, but guys, he's just too meta. We gotta switch things up at some point, right? And I'm saying this as someone who didn't even do him, so maybe I come across as a little bitter, but now's your opportunity to try something else if that's the case. I do think custom tactics with the counter play style or counter build up style is a bit underrated. Mostly because I feel like, well, no one really uses it, but also at the same time, it is pretty hard to make a good custom tactic that uses counter, because you do have to accommodate pretty highly for how it's not very versatile in terms of play rules. You have to use very specific play rules to make it work without getting, destroyed in the counter attack. And I do want to try and keep making custom tactics that use player roles, or build up styles that is not just balanced, because at this point in the game, we're trying to spice things up. The game's almost over. FIFA 26 releases in 3 months. There's going to be a trailer in, I'm guessing, 2 weeks. Footies is going to be out soon, so we're going to want to try and change things up for this FIFA, try to do something fun, hopefully find a new meta before the new game's out, or at least go into the next FIFA knowing we can try something new on it. But yeah, other than that, guys, that's it for this video. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, you can let me know down below. You can join our Discord server with the link in the description. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that. And for today, guys, that's all.